Get ready for a great show.
Black space is a place for us.
Real people with real issues.
Discussing real topics.
Black space.
A safe space for our community.
Hello, I'm George Middleton, your host this evening on this podcast episode of Black Space Live. The topic of our discussion today, we are going to examine part 3 of the question, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free? However, before we get into it, I'd like to take this time briefly to encourage you to like, subscribe, and share this podcast. In other words, don't be selfish with this content. Share the love. You can catch Black Space live on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch, and Spotify. You can also catch us on Anchor FM, Podcast Addict, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and iHeartRadio. And please feel free to share us your comments in the comments section. Now, let's introduce our panelists for today. We have a lively, engaging, and entertaining cast of panelists for you. And we're going to allow them to introduce themselves and let you all know what they think you should know about them, beginning with Miss Desi.
Hi, everyone. I am Desi. I am a blogger over at juteandolive.com. And I do lifestyle blogging. Also, I am a mortgage professional. A lot of my blogs contain information about that as well. So if you're interested in that kind of topic, follow me over at juteandolive.com. And also, I am a Fab Over 40 contestant. So if you guys can vote for me, follow me on Facebook at Jute Olive. And all over my page, you will see the link for Fab Over 40. You can vote every day. Support me, guys.
Oh, yes.
Thanks.
You are a shoe-in.
Yeah.
Welcome back, Desi.
Thanks.
Miss Lakita.
Hello, my name is Lakita Beal. I am the creator and head designer at the Love Frequency 528 Hertz. I make energy jewelry for your hair, for your body, for the endowment of your chakras. Also, I'm a sacred woman practitioner. So thank you for having me.
Welcome back, Miss Lakita. And we have an illustrious couple who, just before we came on, just blew my mind in how they introduced themselves. So I'm going to allow them to blow your mind as well.
So greetings. We are Moncho and Nawasha Edu. We are best friends, soulmate partners, married couple, 23 years. We are the co-founders of the Acoma House Initiative, a culturally based counseling and consulting firm. We're both therapists. We are the co-founders of the Black Love School. We are most known around the world for being the creators of Acoma Day, a cultural alternative to Valentine's Day that is currently celebrated in 16 countries around the world. We are best-selling authors of several relationship books. And so we are here to join this conversation, affectionately known as Manwasha, which is a combination of both of our names. It's actually an ancient practice that when you enter into any rites and come out, you get a new name. So we all get this. And when you get in love and you share in life with your significant other, your mate, your boo, whatever terminology people use, you always get another name. We do this instinctively, but a lot of people don't know it's actually a very ancient practice. And so, some celebrity people try to hijack that practice and call themselves Benifer and all kind of stuff. Right. But really, it's an ancient practice in Black culture. And so we took the first letters of my name, M-O-N, and then the second part of Nawasha's name, or the main part of her name. And actually it's just M-O and then her whole name. Yeah, a lot of people know us as Manwasha. So
what a story.
We're honored to be here.
What a story. Well, an honor to Manwasha. I'm going to toast.
Yes.
To that. We'll do a virtual toast.
Yes.
And I'm also doing this for a reason. In one of my professional roles, I'm a musician, and I had the personal pleasure of performing at this establishment for the first time in this place called the Cultured Urban Winery. And it's an African-American owned establishment, relatively new, in a little town called Anderson, Indiana.
Wow.
And it is an amazing place. And the owner, proprietor, and vintner, who is the source of these wines, her name is Treva Bostic. This particular product of hers is Petite Syrah. So I encourage you to look her up on Facebook, Google her. If her product is worth it. I mean, she has a wide variety of well-done wines, and she is one of 2 or 3 African-American vintners here in Indiana. So I encourage you all to please look her up.
Wow.
And if you're ever in Anderson, Indiana, go to the Cultured Urban Winery. It's an amazing spot.
Sounds great.
Yes. So, the challenge I have for this particular topic is it's from my perspective, it's kind of a chauvinistic question, traditionally bent, and we're trying to examine it in today's modernistic culture. And so to make the show engaging, it's easy to get on the superficial level of what that question really is. Because, not everybody wants to get really heady and cerebral about everything, especially after work. So I'm going to try to start out on some of the superficial levels of it, just to, be nice and light and airy. I warned Miss Desi that I'm going to pick up on some of the themes. She dropped some bombs on the previous show. So I'm going to try to start some messing here tonight. Because she's ready to go.
Go for it.
When she get fired up, buddy, it's something to see. And then Miss Lakita be bringing it right back behind it, like, I got you, girl. So we'll see how this goes. But also, I want to kind of balance it, and every now and then dig a little deeper into the social history and factors that kind of contribute to some of the dynamics of this question. And I appreciate that, Manwasha, that you all are therapists, because we share that professional skill set. So I look at everything through a mental health lens when we're talking about behaviors, especially as it pertains to our community, because as you all know, and most everybody knows, we're a very traumatized community.
Absolutely.
And our state of trauma is our normal. And it's so normalized that we don't realize, just due to our resiliency, because we've learned to overcome everything, that's just our normal. So just to bring the awareness that it's not normal. Let's reset the baseline. It's not normal. So,
right.
So the premise that I have, there's 3 assertions that I want to start out with this as it pertains to our community. Now, this discussion is for the general community, but ultimately I like to get to the particulars as it affects our community, because we are the ones most affected. So as it pertains to our community, here's my 3 assertions, and I shared this in part 2. In the African community, the male-female relationship is our foundational premise of power. Here in America, the African male, and I dare say globally, but here specifically in America, the African male is under systemic attack on a constant and daily basis. Number 3, the African female is not able to capitalize on her most valuable asset, the African male. So that's my overall. You all are free to add, subtract, agree, disagree, dismiss, poo-poo, whatever you want to do. And that's, I just like to, add, provoke thought on that. But that's kind of my context for this discussion. However, on a lighter level, Miss Lakita bravely shared and opened up, a really significant aspect of her personal life. And I hope she's about halfway done with the book, because that's a book, full-length movie, probably a series, Netflix, something.
It's been a journey.
Yeah, yes. And it's so relevant to our conditions. And I was thinking about a lot of what you said, and I realized, as it pertains to this question, for the woman, a lot of our women are in those positions in some level. They may not be swinging on poles, but on some level, just based on this question, a lot of our women are in some aspect of that position.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to call it, because this was a term you used, I'm going to call it, let's talk about the whole life. Let's talk about the whole life, because that's what this question is saying. This question is saying, I don't need to buy the cow.
As a reformed hoe, I know all about it. Let me tell you, I came from the bottom, and that is how I came from. My literally parents that were not there. I came from foster care. When I came out the system, I was in an apartment. They were not, DHR wasn't doing their part. And they said, hey, you want to go dance? So it came to me at a time in my life when I was at my lowest. I didn't have food. My lights were out. I was coming out of foster care. I didn't have a family or a circle of friends to help me. I had to make a way. So the whole life chose me, but it was a survival tactic. It was not who I was. It was not what my seed of creation was supposed to be doing, but it was what I did for a time in my life to survive. And through that lens, I was able to understand the fetishism of the Black woman on a deeper level, because I put a mask on. Her name was Sugar, and she always got the bag. But I figured out a smart way, which is I could talk myself out, into getting this money. I don't have to do all of this. I could just have a great conversation and get paid. The other women are doing it. Why can't I? So I was smart about it, but not every woman is. A lot of girls are selling themselves short and are not capitalizing on the position that they're in. It's a stepping stone for the Black woman, I think, and to a degree. You can go multiple places from the strip club. You can go all kinds of different directions with that. Buffy the Body is a millionaire business owner now, but she was a stripper. You can do a lot of things that are great for your life, but unfortunately that's not always the case.
Isn't it possible that ladies in their profession are getting the better end of the deal for the social practice of exchange of relations? There's an economic exchange for, a physical gratification, compared to women who are trying to live in a moral fashion, even though, they're not married, so to speak, traditionally, but trying to live in a moral fashion, but still end up on some level having to make that exchange, and usually not getting the economic benefit from it. I'm saying this without any judgment, no moral platform or anything like that, just in terms of objectively looking at who's getting the most bang for the buck, pardon my pun. Okay.
I definitely disagree with that. And
okay. All right.
I disagree. I have disdain for this kind of idea that being a stripper or a prostitute or whore, or 304 as they call it nowadays, is in some way a stepping stone. I don't like at all this promotion of people that live that lifestyle that are popular. Like you're saying, Buffy the Barty, Cardi B, because, you know, I used to rent to several girls that were in that lifestyle actually. And 98% of those girls, that's not a stepping stone for them, you know? So when we sell this idea to our young girls that, oh, well, you're getting the better end of the stick because over here, you're still going to have to put out, but you're not getting money. Pimp, when it comes to prostitutes and strippers that still have pimps, when it comes to the abuse, I know that the girls that were living in my house, they had a guy there taking all their money. They still couldn't even feed their children, and they couldn't even pay their rent. But so you're talking about this buying the cow. That's another issue with the Black man, because they're taking the cow. They just want the cow to pay them. They kind of want to abuse the cow. And in this sense, I'm talking about these girls that are out here dancing, that are buying into this idea that, oh, well, I'm going to have to do it anyway, so I may as well sell my body. I totally disagree with it. And I really don't like that that is something that's promoted in our culture. It's just not even true. It's not true that those girls are living a better lifestyle. It's not true.
Manwashas, what say you?
Well, I think when you hear expressions like that, it definitely speaks to a dynamic. When you say, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? I think the truth behind the expression is that there is perceived value in paying for anything. I think that a lot of times we know that if we get something that is free, if we're offered something that's free, we sometimes think, what's wrong with it? If the difference between going to a dollar store and going to a department store, we would assume something is off, but because something costs 99 cents. And is there even a dollar store anymore? I don't even think there's a dollar store anymore. But the idea that there is value in something, I think, is a good assumption. What happens is, I think that unfortunately, the whore dynamic and pimp dynamic is often off. So I would say that the person who is looking for anything that is unfaithful, anything that is a low level of exchange, both people are whoring in that. But unfortunately, women are looked at differently from the man who is pursuing the 15 women weekly and giving up the money. He's not seen as a whore, although he is looking for something that has no value or low value, a low level of exchange. And he's also looking for something that is not a commitment, right? And often in those situations, men have commitments, just like the women have children and the women may have commitments, but the highlight is often on the woman. So a man who is frequenting a strip club is often married, but is not seen as a whore, as a hoe, for going out and seeking that place where the women are. The women are seen as a hoe and get to speak about that life if you're talking about people who make themselves popular off of that. But I would agree that it's the far and few who do that. And what I find interesting is a lot of times people talk about that in an empowering way when it is positioned as marketing for us. But the truth is, most people stop doing it once they get another means to support themselves because of the low level of exchange. So most people are not saying, I'm making millions of dollars and I'm going to still dance and whore myself out and be at the mercy of somebody else's schedule, because now I have another means to feed myself. So I think whenever you find trafficking, prostitution, all of those types of things are a distortion of the sexual desire that people naturally have. That is about the reconnection to divinity, but people are doing it at the lowest level possible and exchanging just the funds, the money, and the time. And I think that if there was another means to support yourself, most people would not do that. So, the other thing I just want to say is the idea that people are doing it anyway and not getting paid, I think it still speaks to the real gap. And the gap is in your idea that you want to be intimate with someone. You want to have the intimate exchange. So there are people on the other end of that who would give for free, because the assumption is if I give you sex, we are going to be intimately connected. And that's what I'm really craving. That's what I actually want. So I don't look at it as I'm giving you this for free. I'm giving you whatever I think the best is that I have in exchange for your best. But we're doing that without necessarily having the conversation about it. So there's this expectation that that's what's going to happen after sex, and it doesn't necessarily happen. It is less likely to happen when you haven't had the conversation about what the relationship really means or what the level of intimacy is that you want. And I think that people settle for this kind of transactional relationship where I can pay you to give me attention, and I can give you attention so that you pay me, because we both have deeper needs.
Yeah, so I agree. I think all of you touched on realities, and what's real and what's true is very different sometimes. I definitely did a case study in that world, where I interviewed and befriended about 20 girls that were in that profession, and they were speaking for about another 200 girls. A friend of mine brought me into that world when I was young, and I was mystified and in awe of Black women. And I was really taken aback by how the perception was that they were powerful. I never dealt with any of them, never had sex with them, and never even paid for a lap dance. I did get a couple of them as a benefit,
as a perk,
for study purposes.
study research purposes.
Like really, I'm being so honest. I was working on a degree, and I was telling the sisters that I just want to interview and understand your mind, like why you're doing this, what you get out of it. And I have to agree with Desi 100%. It isn't I out of about 200 girls in the tri-state of New Jersey, New York, and Philadelphia, I never met one where there was a real benefit for them. It was a means to an end. It was survival. The same way I talk to a lot of brothers who hustle, because in a lot of our urban centers, it's like drugs and this dancer culture become the fast track or the intermediary for whatever you really want to do, or whoever you really want to be. If I'm back up against the wall, if I'm young enough and vulnerable enough, it's not that they're stupid or anything like that, but like Lakita said, it's very salacious. It seduces you. Like when you get introduced to that and you think you got a nice little figure, or you got a few friends, if you're a male and you feel like you can hustle, it does make sense in the absence of mature, wise counsel or community. Like, yo, I could flip this. I just got to move this package and I'm going to get $500. Or in one night, I've seen girls bring home $700.
I've seen people bring home more.
So
hey, my best night was 8,000.
When you see that, it appears to be like this is wise. But I think, as George said, asked a very powerful question, and I don't think I think the question is very profound. I don't think it's surface or I mean, we say it socially. Why buy the cow when the milk is free? The truth of the matter, and what I want to touch on, is the impact of the man. There's nothing free. And that doesn't mean that anything has to be an exchange of pain, but even love is not free, right? So there is so this idea is actually a justification concept, right? So like the brother who sells drugs and says, I'm not a drug addict. These people going to use drugs anyway. Right. So I'm just trying to feed my daughter. Or the sister who dances and says, like I'm not a freak. I'm just capitalizing on these men who lusting, and they'll throw their whole check away. It's that same kind of warped mentality that says, why buy the cow when the milk is free? There isn't a situation where there's a man somewhere that's interacting with women without some cost, emotionally, psychologically, socially, and definitely money. You know what I'm saying? There's definitely a money cost, but the emotional toll on men who live that lifestyle is part of the reason why men die so early, Black men, right? It's part of the reason of that. Because we die of heart disease more than any other thing. And that's not just dietary. More than we killing each other on the street and other things, it's heart disease. A lot of brothers, Brother George, as you know, we of a certain age. I'm 52. I've been around. I moved around the country. I work with Black folks all around the world. Black men, because of what you described, this overt system that is relentless and nonstop, are heartbroken. And so they are trying to, any way they can, get high. Nothing gets you higher than the Black woman.
Right.
Nothing gets you higher than the perceived creative power that we warp into a sexual thing only, but it's not that, because your mother's love is not that, your nana's love, and all of those women that you love in your family or even friends that you have had, that gets you high. But when you're out here on this island called the Western world, and you hurt, and you got your homies, you got other things that placate that feeling of loneliness. But bro, nothing gets you right like them godly curves and hips and breath and eyes and smell and the smile of a Black woman. But we do have a distortion. We got a lust hate for her. So we use her for the get high, and then we dump on her. Really, it's like a projection, because we can't keep that high. So it's like, let me do everything I can to get to this feeling, and then let me tell you, you ain't shit. You know what I mean? Like, go ahead. You know what I'm saying?
Okay, why can't Black men keep that high?
So hold on to the question, because you all covered. I want to kind of sum up everybody's comments, and I appreciate that you tied your last comment back into the question I initially asked. And Desi, let's make sure we remember that question. Why can't Black men do what? Repeat that question.
Keep that high that he was speaking of.
Yes, very
from the Black woman.
Very powerful question. And see, this is why it's so hard to stay surface on a seemingly surface question. Okay, but I'm not trying to be a buzzkill yet for the listeners. I want to still just kind of like examine it from the higher level, but we have to go there. We're going to have to go there. Let me give this statistic, and I know how Desi loves statistics.
I do.
Over the past 30 years, the marriage rate has declined, and more single women are household heads. From 1990 to 2019, the share of households headed by single women increased from 17.6% to 22.6%. So let's just let that rest right there. That's an increasing statistic. When I asked the question about the comparison between the professional hoe versus the undercover hoe, for lack of a better term, it wasn't a judgmental question. It wasn't a moral-based question. It was only an objective-based question as to who's getting more for the exchange of interaction. Doesn't mean that either side is getting a benefit. I just read you a statistic that shows this, that the traditional way does not appear, whatever benefit is to the traditional form of marriage does not seem to be leading out front and is decreasing. And clearly there's a cost for the professional side of the whole life, even though all of that quantity of money comes in, there's a cost for that. But in terms of the objective quantitative exchange, wouldn't it appear that there seems to be more objective bang for the buck in the professional side versus the undercover side? And I would say that you really have to give that question serious consideration in view of our social patterns with relationships.
I don't think, as African Americans or Africans, as you like to refer to yourself, as African American or Black people, that we have to give much thought to that at all. As a people, our self-esteem is currently at an all-time low. There's no way that you can sell the idea that selling your body makes you a better person for a mate, for yourself, to a woman. That's just not true. There's some eternal universal truths, and selling your body, ruining your self-esteem is one of them. So there's no way that you could ever get more bang for your buck being a professional, as you call it, a professional horror dancer or a prostitute, as opposed to someone that, I guess the undercover one would just be a woman that is out, doing her thing, and also having a traditional way of earning money.
Is that your objective view, or is that your personal moral-based view on your assessment of that?
This is my, I don't have a statistic, but this is my objective view from being a woman, being a Black woman, and knowing Black women that have come from mostly these circumstances.
But that's not an objective perspective, though. That's your personal experience perspective.
Exactly, that's my personal.
That's your personal perspective, and there happens to be a lot of merit to your perspective as it pertains to you and your experience. But in terms of objectively speaking, I would say that you're fusing in your personal perspective with an objective-based question in terms of, because clearly the behaviors are out there. This business has been in existence since the beginning of time.
The business is in existence, but the product of what is in existence shows us that itself is the proof of what being involved in that business or that lifestyle reaps. So you can say, well, that's your personal experience, but the business is always there. But the business is reaping. Okay, I don't know. I don't want to offend anybody, but the business is reaping homosexuality, broken households, abused children. This is what that business is reaping. So to say that there's some way that is benefiting Black women because of the fact that something that I disagree with is that they have some kind of monetary gain over another occupation, that's just not there. The proof is not there. Now, you gave the statistics that the traditional nuclear family is dwindling every day and Black women are the head of the household. More and more we find the promotion of this kind of lifestyle, which would lead to Black women then leaving men and wanting to pursue this type of lifestyle or any kind of lifestyle that doesn't allow for the nuclear family to exist. And then also on the other hand, we have Black men and the issues that they're facing. I just can't see, I don't know if I can say sex work on this platform, but I just don't see that as a benefit to our community. And somebody just have to come in and help me understand that.
Again,
Right,
just to clarify, I understand your perspective there, but just for clarification, my question isn't saying, is it a benefit in terms of quality of life and the things that you are asserting, which are true. But that's not the basis of the question, because clearly people are still engaging in that behavior. Clearly the official traditional marriage patterns are on the decrease. And we're going to go into those reasons for those behaviors, but I'm asking just objectively, not that when I ask it objectively, I'm not saying it's good, bad, you're getting something out of it or not. I'm just saying in terms of the participation, this consistent and increasing participation in that behavior, that on a moral framework would not pass the mustard compared to the traditional framework that seems to be on the decline. People do things for a reason.
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think they correlate. I think Desi is 100% correct. And I would also say that your individual perspective comes out of a cultural context. So it's a misnomer that a lot of Black people be saying, and I have to say it like that. And I say, Black people, please define the beginning of time, because everything in the ancient world is recorded and prostitution does not exist there anywhere in ancient text. We got text about how shoes was made, how all kind of stuff, and there is thousands of years of recorded text of that, and ain't nobody talking about prostitution. So this misnomer that this is the oldest profession in the world is just that. Now, the reason we buy that is because our lens of how we look at life is from an alien culture. And that's really, when we move to that context, that's really why the marriage rates are declining, because we're trying to put a peg in a square.
Tell me more. What the alien culture? What is the alien culture?
The alien culture is the value system of the Western world. And what's implicit in what you're saying is money is the end all be all. Everybody who pursues money as the end all be all sees that money is actually not the end all be all. Whether it's sports, entertainers, whether it's, we work with professional athletes, very famous actors. We got clients, you know, I've been in every prison in my state, in New Jersey, mental health institutions, everybody of any life, politicians, whatever, when they are dying or when the bottom falls out, they all have this regret. These that pursued this idea that money is the end all be all. Yo, money wasn't the end all be all. And I would have gave all that shit away if I could have just been with my children, or if I could have just spent the time with my mama. It's a lot of blanks that you fill in. But the idea that I'm going to do whatever I got to do to survive, which means make money, because you're actually, as Desi was saying, you're actually dying slowly. And we have culturally a value system that says anything that disrespects your mind, body, or even your words is actually death. It is actually not leading you to death. It's not actually getting you closer. It actually is death. And so you're dying by degrees. Everybody that I ever kicked it with, just on a one-on-one, or people that I actually worked with who have come to life closure, feel that way. In the moment, they don't feel that way. And so I think Brother George is bringing up a good point, what we're talking about. And I think we all are kind of saying it. The reason we're operating with these things being the pinnacle idea is because we're deluded. And the reason we're deluded is because we don't have grounding of family structure on a micro level, but on a macro level, we don't have a culture. And a culture is what gives you a value system. So like when you talk to other people about how y'all get money, or how y'all deal with divorce, or how you raise children, they answer the question like this: well, in my culture, X, Y, Z, da, 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 because they know that culture informs everything that you do. Now, white people saying this the oldest profession in the world because in their world, they've culturally been whores. And so now we're mimicking that. Not just sex workers, but they've been whores where they're having a unfair exchange for something. But that's not our cultural model. And so whenever I hear Black people say that kind of stuff, I understand what their belief is. You're using the belief of the people who oppressed you, but that's not your belief. So in that way, you're perpetuating your own oppression. So I would agree with Desi that we should never tell anybody, and we never did tell anybody, that there is some benefit for lowering your earthly standard, your physical flesh, in some exchange for money. The other word for it is slavery. That's
Okay,
all.
real quick. Okay, real quick before I have Lakita come in and make the referee call here. You are interpreting the question kind of two ways. You're definitely coming from your objective perspective, but you're still integrating a subjective perspective. Personal experience is always going to be subjective. It just is. Personal experience. You're in terms of objective, because that means for every if I state an opinion on something, there's going to be someone who's going to have an equal and opposite opinion. So there has to be an objective source that quotes that. Now,
Culture is that objective source, because that's
what is that? What is
comes from?
What's
Culture.
the
If you utilize that same logic to say, where does this question come from, you would see that this question is born out of
I will take you that you believe culture is an objective source. That's a good topic for a further discussion. So I understand you're coming from the premise that culture is an objective source. Okay, I think that's up for debate, but I understand that's how you're coming through with. And thank you for bringing did some research from a peer-reviewed journal that states the following: prostitution, often known as the world's oldest profession, can be traced throughout recorded history, which you made that very important nuance in terms of being recorded. Thus, the common wisdom holds making prostitution appear as a natural byproduct of human social formation, needing no explanation. Other experts disagree. Prostitution, as we are told in the Encyclopedia Britannica, which sounds kind of European to me, has not, so far as is known, been a cultural universal. In sexually permissive societies, it is often rare because it is unnecessary. Whereas in other societies, it has been largely suppressed. In his magisterial treatment of the history of prostitution, the German physician E1 Bloch informs us that it develops as a byproduct of the regulation of sexuality. Prostitution appears among primitive people wherever free sexual intercourse is curtailed or limited. It is nothing else than a substitute for a new form of primitive promiscuity. Now, just reading this, to me, that is a very objective based. And when I'm saying objective in the context, it's not referring, it doesn't ever say it's good or bad. It doesn't say that there's pluses or minuses.
Well, the reason I would challenge it's not objective because it verifies that German, which is a culture, right, which those peer-reviewed articles always do. Here's a thought: Black people are the parent people of humanity, and they have no peer, right? And so, if Black people existed a good 30 million years before Germany existed, why is a German professor being used when human beings have been having sex for millions of years before Germany existed? And
now again,
there's always implicit.
Yeah, I got you, brother. I'm with you. You preaching to the choir there, because look, I understand what I'm saying, but it's still, for our purposes, how I see it, it's an objective source, not to be agreed or disagreed with for this purpose, because that's a whole nother discussion. You bringing up so many discussion topics. Say that again.
I have one comment about objectivity.
Okay.
It's a difficult thing to actually qualify, right? So if you say that, in order to say that this person is doing something for free and this person is getting paid, you have to imply that there's value in the money that is exchanged, right?
And the implication in itself, isn't that a subjective effort?
Exactly. So that you can't be objective,
right?
So, right? But see, listen. This does not apply. The description that I just read doesn't make an implication other than
I'm talking about your original question.
Okay,
Being
gotcha.
that
Okay,
can a
okay.
person do this for free? Are they losing out somehow when people are doing it for money? Or because someone is doing it for money, is the person who's doing it for free missing out? The implication is that the highest value is the dollar,
Okay,
right?
so
So that is
so
automatically not
all
objective
right. Let me
because
let me make sure I clarify that the way you interpreted the question. I didn't say either one was doing it for free.
what was the original question?
The original question is, isn't the professional hoe,
Hmm.
aren't the undercover hoes on
Right.
some level in the same environment? Aren't they making an exchange?
Oh, damn. I thought the original question was why buy the cow?
No,
Well,
I'm
are you
saying
talking about the why buy the cow question,
no,
or
I'm talking about the one that you're saying.
yeah,
The original question.
that's and I'm not saying it is or it isn't. I'm just asking you to consider: isn't it possible that for those women who are not necessarily swinging on the poles and grabbing the $1 at the end of the dollar bills at the end of the performance, aren't they still on some level, as it pertains to the question of why buy the cow if you're getting it for free? On some level, aren't they making a similar exchange?
The exchange is about what you would do in order to survive, right? So
Right.
some people have an emotional level that they need to
Mhm.
survive on, and they're
Mhm.
looking for deep intimacy, which is how I originally said, I think both people, men and women, not just the two women on the exchange of
Right.
that,
Right.
but men and women are willing to exchange in order to get their deepest needs met.
Agreed.
And
Agreed.
so I think even that in a traditional culture, our needs would be met, right? And this is even in American culture before colonization. There
Mhm.
was no such thing as owning land, as owning
Mhm.
food.
Right.
People's basic needs were met.
Right.
When you take that away,
Mhm.
then you have people willing to sell another person in order
Right.
to feed themselves because everyone is
Gotcha.
going to have the bare minimum survival instinct coming in.
Gotcha.
I am saying that it's an exchange for different reasons.
Mhm.
So this is where it's hard to be objective with
Yes.
human behavior because you
Right.
can say, I see two people having sex,
Mhm.
and over here they got into it in this scenario, and on the other side they got into it in this scenario, but I'm trying to be objective in that I'm looking at sex. That
Right.
doesn't always work because human behavior is going to be based on internal things as well as the external. And that is what is difficult to objectively understand.
Okay. Point noted. All your points. I really appreciate your perspectives there, Lakita. You've seen both sides. You've seen both opponents in the
Yes.
ring. You're the referee. Come on in and close the gap. What say
Oh,
you?
okay. When I got introduced to dancing and I started dancing, I was coming from a place of poverty. But not only that, I was coming from a place of experience and I wasn't aware of it. Now, most people in my situation would be like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to get a job. I'm going to just tough it out. But internally in my mind, I was coming from a place of where I had been in a situation as a younger woman where I had someone sexually abuse me and they gave me a bribe to not tell. That was the first time I sold myself to a degree because I sold my actual me telling on this person. I did not say anything. I didn't say anything. And I didn't tell because I wasn't like I was afraid. I didn't tell because I like, you know what? No one's going to believe me. I'm in foster care. They're a preacher. They're a school teacher. They have a daycare. No one is going to hear what I have to say. So let me just go ahead and take this money and this stuff he's finna give me for Christmas and shut up and just stay away from this family member. I use that situation as a means of manipulation as well to when I left my group home, I would say I'm going to my uncle's house, but I was really staying with my friend from school's house. So as a teenager, I learned to do these things. So when I came up with the situation of I need to eat. I have no lights. I got to take care of myself. I went to work. Now, Desi dealt with some girls who was dealing with some street pimping and some dudes leeching off of them. But me, I took my money home and counted it myself and put it in the bank and I filed taxes. So I was business smart with mine. I didn't have a guy living under me. And I was afraid to have a guy living under me because I didn't want to get robbed. I didn't want anyone knowing what I had in my house. So during that point in my life, it was very lonely. It was very lonely. And up until I got my bartending license and I left dancing, because as you said earlier, it's normally a means of survival until we find some other hustle. And the bartenders, they make it rain on us too. So I was like, hey, the dollar bills ain't too far away from me, so I'm going to get behind the bar now, because that's what you do when you retire out from dancing. You end up behind the bar. And then, you know, that took me to insurance where I am now. So I just kept climbing. I didn't just stop there. But not everyone's able to make that type of transition like I've been able to make, because I understood what I was up against, and I kept reading and I kept learning. I kept striving for more. So as the one who sold it, and as the one who had sex for free, looking for emotional support or looking for emotional connection, I would say, from a personal, not subjective, but well, from my personal view, both people are lonely.
Mm-hmm.
Both people are isolated. Both people are hurting in some degree or form of way, because you're seeking out a man to just have sex with willy-nilly that you just met in the club, because you're using that sex as a band-aid to some degree. You're using that sex to kind of, you know, patch a hole or some kind of void in your life. And for me, being on stage, and when I did my pole tricks and came back down the split and got that round of applause, that was my high.
Right.
That was my high. When I had the customer that wanted me to just dress up and slap him with a belt, and I'm getting $1,000, and I'm laughing while I'm hitting him with the belt.
Mm-hmm.
In the back of my mind, I'm like, this is nuts. It was a rush. It was an ego booster, but it was also a trap. Like they call the dope house the trap.
Mm-hmm.
The dance club, if you're good at making money without having to degrade yourself, that's also a trap. You can get trapped at both ends of the cycle as Black people. So hoism is promoted to degrade the Black woman and to make it look like we don't need the men, we just need the money. But that's not true. Right. Because once you get that money, you go home and you'll be by yourself, or you be with a man going upside your head, like Desi said, to take the money from you. Mm-hmm. So it was something that I did to survive. So I'm able to speak on it. You know, I'm a married woman now. I've been married twice since that I lived that life. And so I was able to overcome it, but not everybody is. But at the same time, to answer the question again, both people are lonely, hurting. And even though the stripper might have a Louis Vuitton, that was my thing. I might have that Louis Vuitton with 5 bands in it, most of the 20s. I go home to a dog and nobody.
Yeah. Or
people that are looking to take from me because they think I make my money easy. Right. So they all get like this when they see me. Oh, she a dancer. Let's go ahead and get that. I'm not going to give you nothing.
It's falling off trees.
Got it, you know? Yeah. So you end up with that part too. You end up people trying to live off of you and kind of leech off of you because they know you have that money ready and available, and they don't really understand that it's not easily made. Right. You have to have a hustle when you're in there. You have to be smart and think of a way or a gimmick in order to make the money easy without having to whore yourself out or sleep with men for money. Yes. So there's a dynamic there. I just wanted to clarify that on how I felt about those two people or those two dynamics on being the free hoe that's looking to fill a void and the hoe that's looking to buy the next pair of Louis Vuittons and not the joint.
Well, thank you for tying that. Thank you.
I agree with Lakita, but I wanted to say one thing because the statistic, although you were talking about a free whore and a whore that sells her body, the statistic was related to married women. And I think that it's important that we stop kind of selling this idea to our younger girls and guys that on a monetary, there's a lot that you get out of marriage, but monetarily, the truth is that you get much more out of a person over the long haul than you would ever get by them being a regular at the strip club. And so this kind of idea that just use them for the money because we get all the money over here and the wife doesn't get anything at home. That's a ridiculous notion. It's just completely ridiculous. Yeah. And that also could contribute to this marriage rate thing. I think that it's truly these the thought process of these ideas that are floating around in our community, and they really make no logical sense, but young people believe them and they live by them.
So let's drill into that. Like I said at the beginning, I was trying to start out up here kind of light and airy, but ultimately we have to drill down, and everything you just said, Desi, is right on point. And Mansha, his early assessment about what's contributing to these behaviors really overlaps with one of my assertions, which was the African male is under constant systemic attack. And now I'm sure as we drill down into this aspect of it, because Mansha said that and I'm only going to paraphrase it because you said it very eloquently. It's the systemic behaviors, the drive to of the male, and the female, and trying to survive. There are a lot of things that are involved in that process that tend to get in our way from making these more effective decisions that really should lean towards what Desi just said, because statistically speaking, marriage is a much more financially profitable business, not business, but it is a business as well.
Yeah.
Because, divorce proves that marriage is a business.
Hey, Jordan, I want to interject with something. It was an old dancer. Every strip club got that old dancer that won't quit dancing. Her name was Seduction. Don't come after me, Seduction, if you're watching this. But Seduction would always tell me that, girl, you just getting the lunch money. The question is, how much lunch money he got to spend? And when she said that in the long haul, being married, you get more, that's true. So we understood that. And some of the old dancer definitely understood that, because that was her profession for many years. Should have quit. But then she a manager.
I feel that.
People get up when their budget is spent.
Yeah.
That's how you know. Or you get up and walk out like, oh, that was me. I'll see you next time.
That was my lunch money. I'm gone. I'm gonna starve this week.
Yeah. Real quick. Let me get Capri Joelle in on the comments section. I don't know if you're following or not.
Yeah.
But she begins earlier. She said that 23.1% heart disease is the leading cause of Black women death in America. And then next, Capri says, that seems to be a narrative that BLM pushes, is to diminish the value of the traditional nuclear family structure. So that's an interesting perspective. And then just now, Capri says, what about women expressing their femininity and waiting for a man that can stand up to that expression? Waiting for a man to be masculine amongst his peers in other races too. Interesting perspectives. Anybody want to comment on any of what Capri has stated here?
Yeah, I think I saw all of her comments come in. I think she's on point. And I think she had shared the statistic of the heart disease when I was talking about the heartbreak.
Okay.
And so I think that's a reflection of that across the board.
Wow.
That's the leading cause of death in America. And especially within our community, you can see it. And you can see it, when you look at Black people around the world, that they don't have that issue. A lot of times we state statistics like this one that's very telling. And again, we don't contextualize it culturally because Black people don't die of heart disease in other places. So it's not a Black thing. A lot of times, like we hear on the radio and on the news, the leading cause of Black people, like here's a statistic. Homicide is the leading cause of death for Black men 16 to 24 in America, right?
Right.
That's not true of Black men anywhere else in the world.
Interesting.
So it's not an implicit thing
right.
to Black people. Neither is heart disease, neither is diabetes, neither is breast cancer, neither is all of these things that you see when you do a comparative study, which is all statistics are. So, being graduate students and having advanced degrees, the statistics are like lie detectors. They are not admissible in court because they're easy to take apart. A statistic is only as good as the study that made it. And so they will say 23% of people polled said that, or 80%, one of the statistics I see going around, it says 80% of Black women file for divorce. And this is what silly men use in the gender war conversation. Oh, y'all giving up on divorce. Well, somebody who understands the science of statistics can easily say this. That means that 80% of men violated marriage. Now that statistic has no weight because there's always another side of the coin. What makes a person file for divorce? So I think we all agree, and I think Capri is really talking about, it's not just because I really want to, you dropped a really heavy point about the Black man being under attack. And I want to say something to that. But I think Lakita and Desi really brought something out. Statistically speaking, the Black man in America makes more money if he's married. He has a better quality of health and he lives longer if he's married. Statistically,
yes,
he has more sex, believe it or not.
Believe it or not.
The sex is laying right next to him. He has more sex than non-married men over the course of his life cycle. He has a better umbrella for the system that is oppressing him, which is the global system of racism and white supremacy.
Exactly.
If he's married. So now George brought up an excellent point that I agree with 100%, that the Black man is under a unique attack. But I would say, as Desi is saying, we need to make sure that we're telling not just Black youth, because Desi is hitting that on point, but it's actually Black adults that make strip clubs and go to these places. So it ain't youth. We are assuming that Black adults are educated, but they are not. Check this out. The Black man is the Black woman, right? The Black woman is the Black man. So the Black man is under an attack that is unique to his psychology. The Black woman is under the same attack, but it is different and unique to her psychology. Yes. And the proof of this is, as you said, George, at the outstart, I agree with it. The Black man is the Black woman's greatest asset, and the Black woman is the greatest asset.
Exactly. That's it, brother.
So if that's true, and I agree, then if we're not coming together, it's because we're both under the same attack. And what's happening is in a misogynistic culture, or in a culture where we only focus on the man, we make the assumption that the Black woman is not under equal attack as the Black man because he's under a different kind of attack, and that's actually not true.
Now let me just interject with you right there, brother, because you man, you on a roll. Who brought him in? Who brought him on this platform? My Lord. Okay, look. Now here's the thing: when we talk about that, there is a dynamic in our community that when we start talking about these attacks. And again, when I say this, it's not finger pointing. I'm not blaming. I'm not judging. This is just observing behavior. What happens is the discussion between the Black man and the Black woman becomes a finger pointing discussion.
Absolutely.
We dismiss each other's experiences.
Right.
We put each other's traumas down. We say the Black man ain't going through shit. Y'all just need to pick your shit up and act right.
Right.
And the Black men will say, well, y'all got it easy. They not do nothing to you.
Right.
But as you just said, the attack to the man is the attack to the woman.
Right.
So, but we can't see that because we're now in a competition over whose hurt is bigger.
That's right.
That's why it's hard to be objective, right?
That's right.
Because we are living in a human experience. So you can ask somebody, what color is the sky? And you'll get 20 different answers, right? Because we're filtering our senses for our personal experience. And that's what we should do as human beings. You're supposed to have that unique experience that resonates with you, that you are only going to have once on the planet. But the challenge is the other things that would be taught, which is understanding, empathy, communication. Those are the type of things that, unfortunately, as another byproduct of being separated from culture,
Mhm.
we're not taught those things.
Mhm.
So now what we do is over identify with our personal experience as though it is the only
The
experience.
only
There
experience.
And that's what
are-
you were alluding to earlier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That is
Exactly.
very, very eloquently said, because we had that same issue with when we had the discussion before, which was your question, that African American men were under attack. And when it comes to communication, we were talking about that. We're not in a place culturally to separate each other or mention one pain without mentioning the other one, as Monsanto and his wife said. I'm sorry. I know.
Yeah, Monsanto is killing black
Let me
people.
apologize.
I know it's a different name. It's Moncho. Imagine you don't see that T there and you say like Montel, that syllable, and then TV show. It's Moncho. Yeah.
And Monsanto killing black people. No.
Definitely not Monsanto, as Moncho said.
It's all good, sister. It's all love.
When he spoke about that, he said just what is true, that is needed for the communication between black men and women, which is that we're under different attacks. We're both under attacks. Anytime, as his wife put it, anytime you separate those two, we just have to identify the fact that we don't have the communication skills to delve that deeply and know what another one is thinking when we say.
I think one of the things about communication skills, though, is the ability to listen. You know, a lot of times people assume that communication is only in talking. And that is part of the challenge. When someone is talking about their pain, no matter what their pain is, it is dismissive to say, well, I have this pain too.
Right.
So this is another thing that we're not taught, is like, once you hear the word pain, you're ready to spill out all of your pain. Mm-hmm. What is more inviting is to actually say, wow, let me actually understand and hear about your pain from your point of view. And I think that this is the challenge, because none of us feel seen. That as soon as someone starts talking about their pain, we're like, well, I'm not talking about my pain. So since you're bringing up pain, let's just talk about pain. Mm-hmm. Instead of, that sounds terrible, what you're going through. Yeah. Any type of validating or attempt at curiosity and understanding is extremely important, but we don't think of communication as that.
Right.
We don't think of it as internal and external, as listening and speaking. And the real purpose of communication is to understand. Not just to say something and have somebody else say that they heard it, but to actually understand where a person is coming from. And that's what is difficult to do, because we're put against each other in a way where someone is winning for the greatest pain rather than identifying that we both have pain. So I think it's a challenge to learn how to communicate beyond words, right? Whatever language you speak, communication is deeper than the 10,000 words that you know.
Right.
But I have a question for you then. As a culture, though, do you feel that we are inundated with the pain of the Black man? I personally feel like when we're talking about the African American culture, we only see the pain of the Black man. We only hear about the pain of the Black man. So it's very difficult to always be there to cater to and to listen to and to communicate in that way and to show that you're empathetic toward the Black man when we always hear their pain. And it seems that we never hear the pain of the Black woman.
I do think that that's what makes feminism appealing. I think that what happens is we're living in a misogynistic culture and in a misogynistic time. So beyond American culture or even Westernized culture, you will find misogyny in other cultures now, because it's just the time of this kind of distorted masculinity. So what happens is there's a perceived, again, understanding that men are more important than women. So their money is more important, their pain is more important, their success is more important. So that is the case with multiple areas. I think the challenge is that women will say Black men or any men in whatever success they have, that conversation is, hey, I can equally be successful. And sometimes we do that in our women groups, right? So there are times when it's important to be in your male and female groups. There are other times when you have to go with each other. And then there are other times where you're exchanging, right? So you'll still be in your separate groups, but exchanging. I think the challenge is that pain resonates differently from success or from other things, right? So we don't have a problem sometimes saying that people can have whatever they're having, whatever experience they have, and we have one too. When it comes to pain, everyone wants to be seen and validated. And eventually, what we really want is for the pain to stop, right? For it to be alleviated. So what happens is we're hearing about Black men's pain, but because of the nature of it being pain, the assumption would be that we should stop the pain. So what happens is you may say Black men are being murdered, Black men are being incarcerated. So we're hearing certain statistics, but we're not stopping the pain, which is why the conversation is perpetual. What we do hear for women is Black women die more than any other woman giving birth. Black women are having the deaths of heart attacks and also the survival rate of heart attacks. Black women have more broken heart syndrome than anybody else. And there's rape, molestation, trafficking. All of those stories are typically about women. So what happens is because the pains, I think, are different, we say, yes, this is really, really bad. And we don't know how to alleviate the pain, which is a bigger pain point, right? It's not just that women are attacked and assaulted. It's that we actually so-called civilized people cannot stop the trafficking of children or cannot stop the homicide rates. For people who do not even manufacture weapons, you somehow can't stop being shot, right? Those types of things, in counseling, we say that people will have a safe so-called problem. These problems are not our problems that we're creating, but this is a surface level problem to say we're raped, we're assaulted, we're dying inside of hospitals. The real problem is why that happens and why we can't keep it from happening. And those are the pain points that we don't get to talk about that I think are deeper level rather than a surface scratch. It's like an open wound, but we're focused on getting a Band-Aid for the surface scratch as opposed to really being in triage, emergency care for the open wound.
So I'm going to say this from a psychological perspective that is Black. The word psych is Greek. It comes from the word sahu, which is African, which means the transmigration of the soul. So when I'm saying psych, I'm not talking about white folks, right? So I'm saying it's from a psychological, from a cultural, from a biological, from a social, every day on the ground, in the hood, in the country, in the suburb, in the rural, real analysis is that all behavior moves from thought to speech to action.
Preach it.
So if we think, say, and act like this, we will be a leap ahead to solving the problem. I'm not saying this euphemistically. I'm saying it literally. The Black man is the Black woman, and the Black woman is the Black man. Now, biologically, it's easy to see. You're not here unless you got a mom and a dad. So if you're a woman, you're part of your dad. If you're a man, you're part of your mom. The Black man is the Black woman. My metaphor is this. A quarter is worth 25 cents. If you look at the quarter on the head side and you were never taught about the tail side, when someone shows you the tail side of a quarter, you would think that you're looking at a totally different thing. But you're actually literally looking at the same exact thing. It's not a different thing. It's just a different side of the same thing.
All right.
If you were to pierce a hole through a quarter, like some of those machines, I know you all seen them, like the little stamp machines. Which side did you pierce? The head side or the tail side?
Exactly.
You pierced the quarter. They are a part of each other.
Yes.
Now, here's something that Black men can understand and Black women can understand to show it to you on the adverse side. Black men, if you attack a white woman, white men coming for you. We see this historically. This movie is coming out about Emmett Till. All you have to do is the progression is thought, speech, and action. All you have to do is make a sound. It ain't even a real speech. They said he made,
Yeah.
And white men came to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Black women, if you mate with a white man, white women come for you. Everybody that I've talked to about this, why? Why is that? Why, even in their warring, they're able to see themselves as an extension of each other. When you're a black man and you deal with a white woman, it's her dad that has an issue more than her mom sometimes, because you have erased him. When you are a black woman and you do the reverse, the mother comes to the son and says, what are you doing? Because they see themselves as each other.
Right.
The separation that has happened with us, and George hit the whole program at the beginning. Psychological trauma does this to the psychology. It splinters it. It is literally where we get the word divide and conquer from. So when something happens that's so traumatic, like if somebody broke in your house, a mom, a dad, and 2 children in the house, and the person caused harm to everyone actually focuses on their trauma, even though their family member is right on the other side of the room dealing with, he cut my arm off. Well, he put a hole in my head. He took my leg off. He bashed in my face. Right. And so we all are dealing with that. And so because of that, we're not looking at ourselves as a family. We're looking at ourselves as my wound, as George said. So I'm advancing the idea in cultural dynamics, in psychological dynamics, in the hood, in prison, on the street, with the hoes, male and female, with gang members and all. We are each other. We're not a different version of the pain, because look, if the black man and the black woman, as George said, and I agree 100%, are each other's greatest asset, how could you attack one and not attack the other? That's like saying, I attacked, that's like telling the child, I attacked your mom, but I didn't attack you.
I didn't do nothing to you.
Yeah, when you do something to my mom, that is
bro. Yeah.
And so we have to recognize that when we having this conversation, like this beautiful conversation we're having, the balance is here. We got 2 men, we got 3 women. A lot of times in a psychomanosphere, women's voice is not given equal credit. In the psychofeminism movement, and the manosphere is just a pendulum swing back from 40 years of psychofeminism, right? Neither one of them are our cultural value system. So that's what a culture actually is. It ain't food, language, dress. A culture is a group value system. What do we value? What do we believe is correct as a group? And then it starts to manifest through our talk, our speech, our dance, our language, and all of those things. But it's a value system. It's an internal value system that's codified through our thought, speech, and action. And so as Black people, if we're going to find the solution, men don't got it without women. Women don't got it without men. We have to come together, and the actual start for the solution can't be, where's your pain? And this is why we're having the conversation that we're having, not us 5, but I'm saying the reason we're having the conversation in this country specifically, but in the Western world around this relationship fissure, because many of the people who are talking only can contextualize the pain. They don't have juxtaposed next to it the place when we were at peace. And that's why I challenged that piece that you read, George, because what I know about that kind of writing, that journalistic writing, is they'll teach you in journalism, in scientific research, the scientific method, peer-reviewed articles. They teach you what they teach us in the Western world, the opposite of what you're saying. They say there is no objectivity. You have to be subjective, or else you don't make a point. And that's why there's always, when they say peer-reviewed article, they mean white people. When they say German, they mean white people. So the implicit standard is baseline. As you said, we gotta change the baseline. The baseline is always white people. And so if they are the baseline, they will normalize their psychotic psychotic culture and then say things like, people always been killing people. Slavery has always existed. Whoring is the oldest profession in the world. Even if you give people everything, they still going to kill each other. And now, if you only look at their culture, you will say, you know what? That's kind of true. But if you understand things like, if you read there early when they didn't have a culture, the Iliad, the Odyssey, when Homer and the first white people was writing history, they were saying the word ethos or ethics comes from the word Ethiopia, because they said these people are without flaw. They don't even sneeze, they said. They don't even. So if you don't have a comparative study, you're not really being objective. And that's why I'm challenging that. To be objective, to be truly objective in its definition, you gotta find perfect balance and dysfunction. That's why when they do studies, they have what they call a control group. Right. This is supposed to be the group that doesn't even know what we're doing here. Let's observe them and see. And so for Black relationships, in order for us to find solution, we can't focus on problem. We have to develop the clear vision of what functionality looks like before we start to attack dysfunctionality. Because if the people who are hurt by the dysfunction are the only people who are trying to find solution, they will do what my great grandmother said. Even though your ass got good intentions, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. You're gonna mess it up just because you don't even mean to mess it up. And this is what happens. We come together. I look at you, you look at me. We love each other. Boom, boom, bang. We come together and we want to heal all the pain in our life. And guess what we do? We bring all the pain in our life to this other person. And then we got two people who crazy as hell. And then we will blame that on love. But really, it's called function.
So look, you covered a lot there. And it goes back to your early assertion of the alien culture. And so, you know, this discussion, I knew it was going to go this deep with all these great minds on here. And to the point where people forget, like, what was the name of the show? what was the name? What was the original discussion topic? Right. Because it goes deep. Yes, it's about why, you know, the cow and the milk and what's for free. Right. So I want to kind of still, you know, keep a tether with that question. Yeah, no doubt. But as an aside, you probably haven't followed my work, but I take a path of the road less traveled as it pertains to identity, because when you said alien culture, I mean, that resonated with me right away. We may not be seeing it in the exact same way, but there's some overlap there. So there is a strong thread that we are not operating in our right mind as who we really are. And that's why I intentionally use African, because that's the original, even if we are not born there, that's the original source. The word Black, and I don't want to get deep into this yet, because that's a whole nother discussion. But we're going to have to, for part of the solution to even become itself, we're going to all have to do a collective self-assessment on who we authentically are. Because right now we're not even in agreement of who we really think we are. Right. I'll say African, others are going to say Black, another going to say I'm this, I'm that. Right. Not that one is right, wrong, better, or worse, but if you're not in agreement, it doesn't matter who's right. You're not in agreement, so nobody's moving anywhere. Right. But then that's another discussion. Right. So I'm still trying to bring this back to why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free. There was another, I believe it was Nawasha, is that correct? Nawasha had stated that, I wrote the note down, so give me a minute here. Nawasha, that the question assumes value. Nawasha, help me out a little bit here. That to pay for something assumes value. And when you said that, it made me think of one of my other premises as it pertains to our community. We have a dysfunctional relationship with value. We, as a collective behavior pattern associated with economic exchange of goods and services, because of our trauma, we want to get as much as we can for the least outlay. We want to get the most bang for our buck for as little to no output on our part whatsoever. Versus other culture groups that expect to pay good money for good quality, for whatever service. And so as it pertains to this question and value, we're already conditioned because of our lack of authentic self-knowledge of who we are. We're already conditioned to devalue ourselves.
Right.
That, simple example, I'm old school, as you can tell. And I come from a generation where if I was interested in a woman, I had to work just to get her phone number. Mm-hmm. I had to do the work and then ask her out for a date. And that meant like actually go to her home, meet her parents. You got to go through that. Make sure that you understand the rules that the parents set out for you and the consequences therein if you violate those rules. Then take her out, make sure that you treat her like a lady, treat her like the queen that her parents know she is. Make sure she's back at the designated time and hope you get maybe a handshake, maybe. This generation today is far away from that. I was in a discussion with an adult male the other night, an adult male, younger than me, but still old enough to know better. He said, man, if I'm going to take a woman out and she wants to go and she starts talking about, I want to go over here, that's going to cost so much money, I'm done with it. And in my mind, I'm thinking, he's a nice guy and I don't want to check him right there. We're trying to have fun. But I'm like, so your value of that woman is based on how much she wants from you. And if she wants too much, then you're automatically crossing her out. So it's that mindset that we're already, if I see a woman and she's valuable to me, then I'm going to do what it takes. And where do you want to go, baby? And if I can get it, if she really means that to me, and I'm just meeting her, okay, that's where she wants. I'm gonna go break my piggy bank or whatever I got to do. But that's not that mindset. It's one where it's increasingly devalued, and that's that conditioning that comes in.
Oh yeah, George. This new generation, they call that simping. I've recently come across that word, simp, and they're using it out of context because my dad, the way he used the word simp and the way these younger men are using it, it doesn't sound right. But to me, they're saying a man who is accountable for a woman and takes care of her financially in some type of way is a simp, or a man who financially provides for a woman who had children before they got together. He's simping the moment he takes those children under his wing and becomes their father and loves and takes care of them. So I would like to say that man's position to value the woman has been devalued. The moment you become a man who cares and takes care of a Black woman who may have a past, who has children from another man, you are automatically put into this barrel of men that are simps or that are less than or that are weak or don't have, a backbone to some degree, which is, I think that's disgusting because children are wealth. Children is wealth. Children, marriage, when you come together, if you marry a woman that's got children already, there's wealth in that situation because that's your legacy. Your legacy is automatically built and you don't have to do any of the extra work to have it. These children are under your home. They're under your name. They're under your care. Automatically, there's value there. But this generation, they don't see that as value. And it's scary to me because that means you don't see children as valuable. And that is a dangerous mindset to have, especially for men to have. That comes from a place of violence, which also comes from this society in the Western world of being violent toward women and children. Now, I want to digress. Earlier, we were talking about the black man is the black woman and the black woman is the black man. What I want to ask is, why, as black women, are we so willing to ride for our black man, but we don't see the reverse coming when something happens with us? For instance, we dating this guy, he's doing things, he gets locked up. We all go online, free, my boyfriend, free baby daddy, free husband. They on a campaign, they got a GoFundMe, she got a t-shirt, she's selling fish out on the corner, she doing everything to get her man out of jail. But let her take that charge for him. She is left high and dry in the women's prison. No money on the books. She forgot about. Ain't no free her campaign. She left. She left for dead. The same thing in the civil rights movement. Black women led that whole thing when everything was going on with George Floyd, Trayvon. Even recently here in Tampa, one of my friends, her son had been killed by the sheriff. The mom, she kept pushing for justice in her husband, but you saw women's faces at the forefront for justice for Andrew Joseph. So women led that fight too, but I don't really see that enthusiasm when it comes to protecting me as a black woman. Stop sex trafficking of our black women. Stop promoting the hoism of our girls. I don't see black men standing up and saying that. I'm saying it because I'm coming from a place of having to do it. And I know that hoism comes from a place of brokenness and not having a family structure. It's not something you just go, hey, I'm going to go get this money. It's a place of desperation that puts you there. So
I think you raise a very valid point, and I think I'm of a certain age. I'm 52. George, I want to get back to your point about courting after I say this, because Lakita brought up an excellent point. Know and understand that we are living in two times concurrently. Number one, we're living in the time of illusion because most of our information is coming from media. Yeah. And we don't own any of that. Yes. So the illusion of what's happening is being tailored. Yes. Right. So an example of that is this. In hip hop culture, one of the most respected couples lyrically is Papoose and Remy Ma. I don't think that there has ever been a couple where both of the people are considered real lyricists. Like they're not commercial artists. They're really lyrically at the top of their craft. In that relationship, Remy Ma went to jail. She was in jail for a significant amount of time. Papoose was on a campaign, free Remy Ma. I'm staying celibate while she's there. I'm marrying her. I'm not really dealing with any other women. And he used his international platform to do that. Now, what he said when they came back and they were asked to be on Love and Hip Hop, he said, we only about black love, serious black love. And they kept telling me to downplay that I wanted to be celibate and wait for my wife. A lot of the artists that come out, they say, I got songs about black love and stuff like that, but I will only get the deal if I diss. Exactly. Right. So then you use the example of Black Lives Matter. And I saw Capri Joel talked about them. You said when George Floyd, black women were leading that. Actually, white men like Bezos were behind a group of black women who were actually lesbians and who were against the civil rights movement. They said on their website, we do not agree with the aims of the Black Power movement, the civil rights movement, which was advancing the nuclear black family. But as George was saying earlier, and I don't think that one disrespects the other. We can have a conversation about anything on the surface, or we could go to depth And we would still come to the truth if we really listen to an exchange, or if we're informed. Some people on the surface are very informed. The most are not. Some people who say they go in depth are not informed. Right? So it's no difference. It's no difference really. Where you want to talk about it? You want to talk about it on the top, or you want to go deep? Be informed. So the Black Lives Matter movement is being exposed through this documentary that Candace Owens is putting together. And she is a Black woman who's being financed by white men. She's only trying to do it to pull Black people away from the Democratic Party into the Republican Party. Right. But she is going to expose that the Black Lives Matter movement raised almost billions of dollars, and none of it went to the families of Trayvon Martin, any of those brothers. Their mothers and fathers were saying, listen, y'all making hundreds of millions of dollars by showing my son's face, and we can't fight the court case or any of these things. The same exact thing happened with George Floyd. So when we get all of our information about what's happening with one another from white-led media, even when Black people are in the seat, we are misled. And so it's like, it's the same narrative that you're saying could be applied like this. A lot of brothers that I talk to I say what Desi was saying. Listen, brothers, in order for us to bring our family back together, in order to defeat this beast, we can't do it without our women. So we got to marry up. We not got to settle down. We have to mate up, because when you mate, you're going to go up, right? So we're very bullish about words and terms. I'm not just saying this euphemistically. I don't let our clients say I'm settling down or I'm trying to be romantic. When Rome knocked you upside your head and drug you through hell, where the word hell comes from, Hellenic culture, which is Greek and Roman culture. But we have to understand that we have to be together, right? So I tell brothers, and they say this, Lakita, to your point, man, these sisters don't want to be married. I'm like, what? We're 7.8 out of all Black people in the Western world, which includes Canada, United States, the islands, and Europe, Australia, are unmated. We are the most unmated people on planet Earth, Black people in the Western world. It shows that this is a cultural phenomenon, because Black people in Africa, Black people in India, Black people, even Black people in Brazil, are finding ways to mate despite being promoted as poor and crazy and not as advanced as we are, right? So something is happening to us. But when I say this to brothers, you know what they say? Man, all you see, turn on the TV, all you see is Black women saying you don't need no man. All I see is, everywhere I look, I don't know Desi, I don't know Lakita, I don't know Nawasha, I don't know all these women you talking about. But every song that's a hit, every, somebody mentioned what's her name, the rapper earlier, Cardi B, who I think is an interesting paradox, because she's married because why? What does she say? Culturally, it's important for her to be married, but her lyrics bespeak not being married.
What she also said was, I put out other music and nobody supported it. So
exactly. Right.
And so this bespeaks the point. The image we have, and what George said, not having an authentic understanding of who we are, who we think we are, and who we think our partner is being tailored by media that we don't own. And so Desi brings up an excellent point about what we're teaching the children. I advance that we teach children to see the television, including the media that's coming from their devices, as dangerous as walking through the streets at night.
Yeah.
Because the psychological harm that's happening
there,
and adults,
is
that we're so crazy and we're so out of our minds, and we can only approach understanding from pain. Now, we marry couples. We have married 8 couples. And I'm telling you, we have served almost 25,000 people on like 16, 17 countries, Black people, all Black people. We don't work with anybody else, Black and brown people, right? everybody that we've talked to is talking about they want to do. We talk about this magic wand scenario, and we say, if you could have the relationship of your wildest dreams, what would it be? Every single solitary one of them, single men, single women, or couples who are made it in the challenge, say, I want to be with somebody. I want to be with my divine reflection. So when we go out here and echo that, why is it that men don't want this? Or why is it that women don't want that? We are actually agents of that divisive entity that is misleading us.
And let's add I want to add something more specific to her question that ties back with my original question that we kind of debated back and forth. Desi took a perspective, you took a perspective, and I took a perspective, and then Lakita kind of merged them together. But Lakita, your question as to why does it appear that all of the energy is toward the black male when he's down on a down and out, but then when it comes to the black female, nothing. I would say mirrors on some level that whole pimp conditioning.
Yeah.
And the single mother trend that seems to be a significant development path for our young people. For the young, the church I used to play for, the pastor would describe the typical experience of a young black male growing up. He would describe it like this: I grew up to be a man just like my mama.
Wow. Yeah.
And so that experience is this: mothers are excellent at nurturing, right, at protecting, at embracing, at loving, at feeding, providing those needs. That's their skill set. Fathers have a whole other skill set. It may not look like love from a feminine perspective, but it is just as loving and just as important.
Just as valuable.
Just like you said, it's a quarter, the front and the back, right? They're only getting the backside of that quarter, most of our young people.
That's right. And
that backside of the quarter for the young male, he's interpreting it at an early life. This woman is doing everything for me. I don't have to do anything. I get up and it's on a table. Magically, there's always food in the kitchen. It just stuff appears. I don't know about cutting the grass. I don't know about changing a tire. I don't know about any of these man stuff. All I know is when I wake up, this stuff is here. Fast forward. As a therapist, I work for an agency that's contracted with Department of Child Services and Juvenile. Mm-hmm. When I'm walking into juvenile, I don't see dads bringing their kids in. I see mothers bringing their boys in. So from birth, the majority, not all, but the majority of our young boys are learning, first of all, that it's all about them. That's the first thing. That I don't have to do much because it's going. And even if I do something stupid, mom's going to come get me out. And that is a condition so that when he finally becomes a man, at 18, 20, 25, you don't just automatically know how to be a man.
Right.
And if you haven't learned how to do those things to grow up to be a man, now that boy that you fed every day and washed his clothes every day and made sure and got him out of trouble all the time and didn't really give him the consequences that he should have got for the behaviors, he literally does not know how to advocate for you. He does not. He doesn't have the skill set or the mindset to say, okay, that's my girl, that's my queen. This ain't happening to her. He might want to, but he does not have the know-how.
Yeah. And I think you speak to a very profound thing. Did you want to say something? Okay. She looked at me like, I felt the energy from her. I might have jumped in too quick, but I'll be very brief. We talk about 3 N's and 3 P's. Men provide, they protect, and they prophesy. They provide knowledge, wisdom, and understanding, not just material. They protect, physically, emotionally, psychologically, and then they prophesy. They create a vision of what our togetherness is. We don't ever lose that. You know, spitting game and hollering at women is prophecy. Baby, if you was with me, I'll rock your world, or I'll do this or that, da, da, da. All of that is the same prophecy. Women nurture, nourish, and neutralize. They nurture. They take something that is partial and they make it complete, right? That's the emotional self, whatever. On the most fundamental level, they take that little white water and they hold it for 9-10 months and make a human being out of it, right? They also nourish, as you said. They give us mental food, spiritual food, and physical food. But they neutralize also. Nothing de-stresses a man like a black woman.
Say that. Say that.
Right? So when you look at those 3 P's and those 3 N's, it's actually the same thing.
I love that, man. 3 P's, three P's and 3 N's. Now,
and I think if I can say about what he just said, I think that actually relates to what Lakita was saying, because when you talk about hearing Black women speaking out, because sometimes I don't like so much to focus on the negatives, you know, and I think there are positive things that are happening within our community, but we have to see the positive in them. So when you talk about women speaking out, as Manasha said, they're neutralizing the situation. So it's not for men to speak out. They should be doing protecting, providing. I'm going to add preventing. They should be in the back.
I like it.
Be in the back preventing this stuff from happening.
Yes.
They don't need to be out front neutralizing the whole world, saying, "Hey, look at what happened." I actually think that's fine, but they do need to be doing the work on the other end, as he said, with those 3 P's.
Yes. Yeah. All right. So look, my producer said this is going to be the last series on this topic, and I just don't see how it can be. But he's the producer. But we've got 3 or 4 good show topics out of this discussion. Mansha, we need to have you all back.
Yes, absolutely.
I was telling Desi and Lakita that those 2 alone take me out of deep water, and now that we added you 2, I'm in a freaking hurricane, right? And so, but this has been good because we got enough. This is a panel of heavyweights right here. Absolutely. Everybody stands strong in their perspective and they bring it. And I really enjoy this type of diatribe, and it shows all the plethora of ways of looking at things. And we don't have to be in agreement on everything that we talk about, but we're able, because of emotional intelligence and an eye for the bigger picture. And I know you all hate this word, but objectivity is important. Okay, objectivity is important, and maybe we need to have a show. Maybe we need to have a show.
I just question if it exists. I don't see.
And that would be a great show topic right there.
Yeah,
does objectivity really exist?
And you know what, George, I wanted to just add, I should have said this in my introduction. I invited Manwasha here because I'm a member of the Black Love School, me and my husband. We both are members of the school. So when we were having these conversations, I was like, we have to bring them on the show so they can bring their perspective and the different view, and we can go a little bit deeper in these conversations because I noticed that the internet is inundated with these very surface conversations that are going nowhere. Whereas tonight we were able to have a conversation and dig really deep into the topic, why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free. And we also talked about the milk selling the cow selling the milk and all the rest of that. So this was a good show. I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
I want to get one more.
And I thank you for inviting us.
I just wanted to say one thing. I think that those sayings have a place, right? When I learned that saying, it was when I was younger, which was talking about the fact that if someone really wants to work, they will take care of the cow also that's feeding them. So the why buy the milk and the cow, why buy the cow and the milk is free was from my grandmother from mother to daughter conversation, right? Saying that if someone's that's the same as tilling the land for your harvest. You have to actually put in some level of work
Yes.
and do the care and nurturing if you want to eat, right? So milk is sustenance. The harvest is sustenance. The idea that you would have to work for that is the value that you're placing on the woman and on the level of intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
When that the saying is flipped to say, why should I buy the cow when the milk?
Yes.
That's not how the expression was ever really intended.
Right.
Yes.
It was words of wisdom.
Culture.
Wow.
It was wisdom that your mother and grandmother were telling you is that you have value. Why are you, the cow, passing out all of your milk for free when nobody's feeding you or taking care of you or has a home for you or land for you? So that was the concept that all people, but especially men who are looking at what is my level of work, because most men, and this is the psychology of most men, will not accept something that they didn't work for. And this is, I'm talking about even on
and
the
that's
street,
what George was referring to.
and this is just if you understand this, you don't respect what you didn't work for, even when you get
Tupac
it for free.
said, I don't want it if it's that easy.
And this is why I was saying there's
That's what it made me.
And women, we do this too, but we're more into the details. So like if you talk about the Louis Vuitton bag, we will take the knockoff Louis Vuitton bag because we're in the mood for it in that moment, or we'll do the most expensive jewelry with the costume jewelry because it's about the details and the mood that we're in that moment. But for most men would do something for the work and not get paid, as opposed to getting paid and not having done the work. Now this is at the most basic level.
Right.
So I think that it's funny how things get flipped and changed and put into new context. But originally, again, it's the idea that people work, but especially men work for whatever it is that they want, which is why, like George was saying, I'm going to do this, this, and this just to get a phone number. If I don't have to do that, the perception is there's not value. Because if it is too easy to get, it must not be of value. And I think that this is just something that you have to know, again,
that's when they say you for the streets.
The beginning of the story, right? About where is an expression coming from and what is the all expressions, morals, myths, sayings, they're really summarizing a story. So when you're using these powerful metaphors to say, why would anyone buy the cow if they could get the milk for free? It's because you're giving the gift without the work that is implied by actually taking care of, an animal or taking care of the land. So I think that it's just interesting, how sound bites get out there now without the whole story and the whole meaning behind them.
So I want to wind this down. I want to bring another comment in from Capri, who going back a little part in our conversation earlier, she stated Candace Owens is teaming up with a black man, which is interesting, whom both are partnered with white partners.
That's right.
Is this who black people only listen to and take seriously?
That's right. No.
So, well, I don't know. I don't know. I think they have. There's a market out there that they're succeeding, and these are things that really we need to discuss on an objective level, because individually, Candace Owens strikes many different responses based on people's individual perceptions, but she's having an objective impact on our behavior, and people don't realize that. And so, but I'm just letting it out for a tease because I want you all to come back and argue that objectivity point. So I want to do something different today. Normally, I like to end with something lofty, some advice. But what I want to do today is challenge everybody to share with everybody something you learned from this discussion today that you never knew or heard for the first time, or that you vehemently disagree with. And we're going to start with, I'm going to save Desi for last. Because she can close this up. Let's start with Manwasha.
Ladies first. Okay. Something that I thought was really profound is the idea of hoeing, and why there seems to be a focus on the person or the woman hoeing like in pop culture, we say the whore and the trick. They both are hoeing, but she's called the hoe and he's not. Now he don't get called the hoe until he get around a bunch of other men. And one of the easiest way to diss a man is like, you a hoe, So I think it's interesting that I think Desi and Lakita brought up that the dysfunction sometimes is the man is seen as the victim and the woman is the problem, when in fact we're both being victimized by the same problem.
Okay. All right.
Something I didn't know. Let's see. I think,
Or something you disagree with vehemently.
Okay, well, I definitely disagree that people can objectively talk about human behavior.
Okay.
So I'm going to leave that one nice and short.
All right. Lakita.
I want to say I disagree with the idea that women who are in the whole life have a low self-esteem, or are in a place of they don't feel good about themselves. Because before I became a hoe, I won beauty pageants. Before that time, I won beauty pageants in high school, so I had a ton of self-esteem and self-worth. And I did this while I was in foster care to prove a point to my foster parents, because I was that type of foster child. I'm gonna stay active to stay away from you. But to say that a woman that's like that doesn't have value in herself isn't 100% true. We are broken to some degree, yes, but it takes a whole lot of self-esteem to pull together a show and produce that show and pass out flyers for that show, and then drum up money and being able to put stacks in your bag and file your taxes at the end of the year. That takes a lot of self-esteem. So I would say I disagree with that point of view.
Okay. All right. That's a powerful one there. That's very powerful. Oh, come on, Desi. What you got, girl? What you got?
Well, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with what Lakita just said. Sorry, Lakita. I just can't. I mean,
you got some dust ass hoes. That's all that was.
I
dusty hoes.
Disagree with the fact
They was getting killed. They couldn't pay their rent. They was messed up.
But to sum up the question I thought that Noasha really said that very nicely, because she had a very great point. That saying, why buy the cow when you could get the milk free? That was something our moms used to say to us because we were seemingly being loose. Don't do that. He won't want you if you're giving it free. So it shows the downward trajectory of our people as a community. And it really needs to keep being dug into until we fix it, because the fact that saying is now flipped, where men are saying, well, why should I marry her when I can get it free all over here? That's a problem. That's a really big problem.
Especially when they paying for it.
Exactly. And some of them rather pay for it than get it free. And that's
right. That's right. How about that?
Yeah.
All right. Well, my turn. So something that I learned today that I didn't know was the cultural implementation, or the cultural practice of melding of names of the mates. That was just really resonated with me. It was just so significant. It was so powerful. Just the symbolism of that. And then I really appreciate Menasha, because, and I'm not blowing smoke up you guys, but you give me that, and this isn't a partisan ideological statement. It's just, I'm recognizing game. You give me that Michelle and Obama vibe.
But not telling black people out for the benefit of politics. No, I'm only kidding.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying. But the symbolism of the African male and female, whether you agree with them or not, they were in sync and they were powerful.
Absolutely. Okay,
and you two exude that symbolism of in sync and power. And when I hear Noasha speak, Noasha is very understated, but you can tell there is a deep
Yes.
depth within her, and she doesn't feel like I've got to bust my wind. It's that quiet strength.
Yes.
And I'm rambling. I am, but I'm just saying that you're the way you walk your talk, and the visual symbolism of you two is powerful, and it's really relevant to this question about the milk and the cow, because as Desi said earlier, she referred to the statistics of the financial sense of a long-term traditional relationship. This is what it looks like. And Desi, I'm sure when she's with her husband, is equally powerful, because Desi's powerful by herself. And same with Lakita. So it's that visual imagery. If we saw this imagery more, and the only one way we're going to do that is we have to start controlling our own platforms, which that's another discussion. But I'm gonna drop this and I'm gonna let y'all go. The solutions we've been discussing will not occur under the Black identity mindset.
That's right.
So I'm just gonna leave it right there. So anyway, thanks for teaching me. Thanks for challenging me. I'm mad at y'all because y'all didn't agree with me about objectivity. But then that's just my subjective opinion.
Hey, look at this, right? We don't have to be alike to be together. So
Yes, sir.
unity is not uniformity. If you look at my big hand here,
Yes, sir.
the thumb is nothing like the pinky at all. They don't
Exactly.
function alike. They don't.
Right.
They on what appears to be opposite ends, but they work together when unified to strike a mighty
There you
blow
go.
as a
There
fist.
you go.
And so we never have to be uniform to be unified.
To be unified. That's two different things, brother. Right on.
Right.
So on that note,
That's subjective.
so but it's objectively true. So on that note, Desi, thank you. Lakita, thank you. Manasha, thank you.
Much thanks. Much
Yeah.
It's
thanks.
been great. And Capri, you were invaluable with your comments, and thank
Yes,
you for coming
thank you
coming
so
back. This has been a great show. So to you viewers and watchers, listeners, have a great week. And until the next time we meet, we'll see you in the Black Space.